everybody had a good weekend. Like those I talked to had a good time. Well, we welcome for those who come tonight from the public and other officials and the employees. So thank you. We're going to open with prayer from John.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Can we bow our heads, please? Our dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this opportunity that we can do the business of Georgetown Township. We pray for your wisdom. We pray for your guidance. We thank you for the holiday season and Thanksgiving, and what a wonderful time, the opportunity we had to be with our families. And we ask for your continued blessing throughout the season ahead. Thank you, Lord, for the wonderful people that work here and even those that risk their lives for us. We truly appreciate all that they do for us. The world right now, Lord, is facing many, many challenges, and we pray that your wisdom will guide people and bring peace throughout our world. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Clerk, it appears we're just missing one.
Yep, just treasurer.
And I don't know, is he okay? I hadn't heard. Okay. All right. Well, none of you misses very often, but when you do, just let me know. All right. Item 5 then, is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda? So moved.
Support.
Supported. Any changes? Any additions? None. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. Item 6, communication letters and reports received by us as board members for information. And we'll move next into public hearings, so we'll have this precede our normal public comment period. This will be a public hearing that will open here momentarily just for the public's benefit here tonight that will have to do specifically with a particular plan unit development. So if you came tonight to speak to that, you're going to get your chance in a moment here. All right, so is there a motion to open the public hearing? So moved.
Support.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, our public hearing is now open. This is a public hearing with regard to DJ Land Investments LLC's request to amend its Glen Eagle PUD or planned unit development. And they had submitted a revised preliminary development plan to increase the density of the overall PUD by adding 7 additional units. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak to that particular request? Yes, sir. If you would, come forward to the mic and simply identify yourself, your name and your address. We've got 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tom Healy, and I live at 2659 Cedar Grove North in Georgetown. Thank you for giving me the opportunity tonight, and thank you all for your service to the township. It's critically important, especially as Trustee Schwalm mentioned, in these kind of volatile times these days. To the point, there was a significant turnout at the Planning Commission meeting. Generally speaking, the residents from that location were opposed to the density increase. Their opposition was centered on the fact that there are no sidewalks, there are reduced setbacks, therefore there are visibility challenges for traffic. I have just 2 points to make. I think the sidewalk mandate should remain. Part of the discussion included comments about subjectivity and feelings regarding safety. And we have a recently enacted mandate for sidewalks. There is nothing subjective about it. It is 100% objective. Sidewalks are required. They are required as qualifying conditions under 22.2 and under 22.5 in the ordinances. The second point is that the current PUD was approved with a sidewalk waiver with pretty substantial setback reductions with extra green space, which is a really nice amenity, but with also a fixed density. Going forward, that green space could be reduced substantially, especially if sidewalk waiver is granted. What happens is the Planning Commission looks at the qualifying conditions and says, if you meet these conditions, we are kind of compelled to give that a plan approval. So if the sidewalk mandate is removed, the density limit is essentially removed. That presents a large potential problem. The density, the reduction in green space and the density could both move in opposite directions, very little green space, lots of density. So those are significant points. I think it's important that the board hear that, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Tom. Anyone else on this subject? All right. Seeing none, is there a motion to close tonight's public hearing? So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and the public meeting is now closed. At this point, it comes to us as the board. As the board knows, this is one of the situations where both Planning Commission and Township Board need to vote on it. Planning Commission, of which Gary is a part, has made its decision and recommendation, and it's now open for board discussion. Does anyone wish to, at this point, place the motion before the board one way or the other?
I move that we deny the waiver as the Planning Commission has asked.
All right.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Discussion among the board. I know that we received a pretty detailed background about this and the requirements of Section 22 and whether or not those requirements have been met in this instance. Plus, everybody has made their own independent analysis of that. Anybody disagree with the Planning Commission's determination in respect of Section 22? I didn't either. I thought they...
No. Seemed like they did a good job.
Yeah.
That they looked at a lot of things.
Yeah. In which case, if you feel those qualifying conditions are not met, you really don't have the luxury of saying, but I'd like it, right? I mean, we've got to follow those section requirements. Any comments? Anybody, any questions for either Rob or Justin? Okay. Hearing none, this is going to be a roll call vote. Motion's before you to deny.
Mr. Kraftman?
Yes.
Mr. Volek?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes.
Clerk is a yes. Mrs. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Schwam?
Yes.
That's a positive, negative, not to confuse anybody. That was a yes on a no.
Yeah.
Right? So that denial is approved here by the board. All right? And we'll move on then to item number 8 on our agenda. Now, this is a different public hearing, public comment period. And we thank you, Kevin, for coming. Appreciate it. This is a different public comment period. Now, this has to do with the remaining action items on the agenda for this evening. If you've had a chance to read that or possibly even have it pulled up on your phone right now, you are welcome at this time to step forward and address the board on any of those items. Do we have any takers this evening? No? All right. We'll close that public comment period. I think most of you know, but I'll just remind you there will be another public comment period in just a few minutes toward the end of the meeting, at which you'll be able to address the board on any topic you like. All right? Moving on to item 9 then, our consent agenda. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Consent agenda is passed. Item 10, fire truck repair, emergency purchase. We've all, I think, read the background on what happened there. Is there a motion to more or less retroactively approve that repair?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. We all understand this main truck has been fixed on an expedited basis, but exceeds the authority really of one employee or one manager to do. So it comes to us as the board now to, as I say, to retroactively approve. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Appreciate the quick work in getting that taken care of. Item 11, sidewalk waiver request for 4th Avenue. This came through our Utilities Committee. Is there a motion to approve of the request to waive the requirement of 4th Avenue?
So move.
Support.
All right. Discussion about that. Now it's becoming a little bit of a broken record in that we get these requests and they really are a case-by-case situation.
Actually, this request came before us before, it's just that it was written up improperly.
I see.
So we're just doing it properly. So the request has actually been before, but I think we did not put in the fact that it is a temporary request. So we had to change the wording. That's where it's coming from.
All right, thank you for that reminder, Gary. And that, for the public's benefit, that temporary language he's referring to is the fact that the board may grant a temporary waiver, in this instance on a sidewalk, but reserve the right to require at a future date when it makes sense that a sidewalk be installed. Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approving this request, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, and that motion carries. Item 12, door lock controls came through Utilities Committee as well. We need to upgrade our door lock security here at Georgetown Fire Station number 1, Georgetown Connections. Sounds like a jail. Corrections. Senior Center. Anyone wish to make a motion to approve of that upgrade?
So move to approve that.
I'll support it.
Support.
Moved and supported. Anybody, any comments beyond that, what you've read, what you've heard, studied? All right. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. I'm glad we got that taken care of. Through Utilities came a traffic study request, item 13. From time to time, members of the public or even sometimes different officials and others will say, I think that road's too fast, or I think that road's too slow. I'd like to have a study done, in which we typically say, be careful what you wish for, because you may want it to go down, it goes up, or you may want it to go up, it goes down. But they've got to, as a member of the public, if there's going to be such a study, they've got to support it, their request, with an approval from the township. So, with that being said, is there a motion to request a traffic study by the Michigan State Police on Rosewood there between Camrose and 36th?
So move.
Support. Is there a cost to that?
Not to us.
Oh,
It's
okay.
paid by the Michigan State Police, actually.
Okay.
The cost could...
They actually changed how they do traffic studies the last couple of years. I think the Michigan State Police does them all now. And it has to be requested from us to do that.
Yes.
And so it's all kind of different. So we have to go to the Michigan State Police. They do the traffic studies now. So
Okay.
that's
We just
the
need
reason.
board resolution to look at it, I think, right?
Yes.
So they need our approval.
Yep, they have to come from us.
You
Okay.
guys get involved at all when they... No, okay. Are you glad for the change? Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I understand. And the thing of it is here, just for those who don't know, it goes from 40 to 25 or 25 to 40, depending on which way you're
45
headed.
to 25, right?
40 to
45 to 25?
40
to 25.
40, okay.
Yep.
Either way, you're doing 50, Amy, so I don't know why you're... I don't want you at all.
It's 45.
You still get involved with that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know me.
Okay, well, did we have the motion already made? I'm sorry. All right.
So move.
So those who'd like to see this traffic study requested, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Be curious to see how that comes out. Item 14, a significant issue, one that's been talked about at length for a long time. Your Lakewood Construction DPW building. I imagine there's going to be discussion, but we need a motion on the table, I think, to really dive into that. Is there a motion to
So move.
approve? All right.
Support it.
So this would be just, again, for the benefit of the public, motion to approve the design engineering bidding for a new Department of Public Works building not to exceed $3.9 million, and to engage Lakewood Construction at a contract price to include $144,100 for professional services, as recommended by Utilities Committee. which I sat in that particular night. Members of the board, you've talked about this, you've received information about it. What are your thoughts?
Do you want to run through a presentation? Because we have
You know what? I didn't know who you were, Adam. I was accustomed to Kyle, and so I didn't recognize you.
But I'd like to give a little history.
Yeah.
It's kind of why I think that it's time. So when I got on the board, we had a lawsuit against us with some drivers of the township vehicles, and so the board made a decision that our vehicles would no longer go home with our employees. They had to stay here. So the employees come to our site, pick up their trucks for the day and go. We have about 10 or 12 trucks that we own right now, vehicles. And since that's happened, we only have the one building down by the cemetery property on 28th Avenue. And so all the vehicles are parked inside. So what's happened is it's just become too crowded. We have no room for all the vehicles and all of our equipment. And I'll give you an example. So like this morning, if they had to plow snow, we don't have enough room to park a truck in that building right now with the plows on. So they come in, they remove 3 or 4 trucks, they get the plow off the rack, put the plow on the parking lot, hook the plows up to the trucks, and if it's early in the morning, 3, 4 in the morning, they put the trucks back in the garage. So the efficiencies that we have been lost. And another problem we've had is because we don't have enough storage, we're actually storing a lot of our DPW stuff in the water towers, some of the pump stations, basically all over. It was brought to my attention last year, we had somebody hit a fire hydrant in the night, and we had to replace it. So they get a fire hydrant out of one building, and they're looking for the rings and all the other stuff in another building. It isn't long. They're spending a lot of a day trying to put this all together because they had parts all over the township. This morning, there's a picture of all the trucks in the building. This morning, I stopped down by the fire station 1. I talked to Craig and Matt, and I asked them about a building like this. And what I wasn't aware of is that there is some certification has to happen with some of our oxygen tanks on our emergency vehicles, and the only reason to get them out is with a crane, because they can't lift them out. So what they do is they bring our truck crane down there and try to get them out inside the building as best they can without wrecking anything. With a new building, we would have an overhead crane. We currently don't have any buildings. That's a very low ceiling in that building. A lot of buildings have low ceilings in them. With this new building with a higher ceiling, we have a crane. We'll lift it out. We're going to be able to do some more service work in that building on our fire department, with our fire department. And so I think that's going to be really good to use the DPW building, not just for that, but also do a better job of servicing our trucks ourselves. The other issue is that Station 1, is it 1 or ones? What'd you tell me now, Rob? It's ones? Ones, okay. So Station 1 does not have a fire hydrant by it. The fire hydrant's across the street at the church, and so our training is in that church parking lot. We have in this building proposal to bring 2 fire hydrants onto the property so we can train on our own property in our own parking lot and be able to do more of that training with the building. I also think with a building with a higher ceiling, I actually worked on a fire station years ago down in Lockport Township by Three Rivers, and with a high ceiling they developed an area inside they could train with a window up high, put a ladder against there, let them repel inside the building, that kind of thing. So there was a little bit of training they could do inside if they wanted to. So I don't know. I just think now is the time to start looking at taking care of with all them trucks and equipment. We probably got close to $1 million in pickups and equipment. They really don't want to park outside, but the efficiency of parking them all inside that building with all the stuff we have there is just not. To me, it's not the way to go. We are growing as a township, but we haven't done anything to increase our facilities. So, there's my 2 cents worth.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Gary?
I mean, take that out. Didn't take the wind out of your sails, Adam.
Action. Yeah, there it is. Thank you very much. So I think this is a packet that you guys have been given. It's a multi-page packet that we put together. In 2022, we were asked to help study the storage needs of the Georgetown Township DPW department. Following a site visit, or multiple site visits, it was discovered that, as Gary was mentioning, Georgetown Township is currently using a number, actually 6 various locations to store their equipment and pipes. These 6 locations equate to roughly about 6,600 total square feet of storage. That's not all in one place. That's in bottom of water towers. That's in the locations at the soccer field across from the cemetery, various places around the township, making it, as Gary said, pretty inefficient for township employees to do their day-to-day activities. They have to visit a number of different sites to get the parts and pieces that they need, and the equipment that they need is quite often behind other equipment. So lots of things have to get taken out of buildings to get at what they need. These current storage locations also did not appear to be originally planned as DPW storage facilities, meaning that the things that are stored there maybe really shouldn't be stored there. Some of the locations seem to be pretty tight quarters, making it possibly a hazardous location for getting some of the heavier things out of that location if something were to roll or to fall. There isn't a lot of space with so much stuff in there. Employees could be at danger a little bit and could be forced to kind of use equipment that wasn't intended to get things out of there. So not only is there increased or decreased efficiency, there's a little bit of a hazard associated with these locations. Based upon our analysis, the current equipment storage size and needs, the current size of the township, the anticipated growth in residents of Georgetown Township services, we thought it was pretty clear that there was a need for additional storage in the township. So Lakewood took a look at neighboring townships and said, well, what are other places doing and what should Georgetown be doing? We looked at kind of the neighboring city of Zeeland and saying, what are they doing? They're pretty similar to Georgetown Township. They're in the same location. They're doing similar things to what Georgetown is doing. So we kind of compared those two. Just some quick numbers. Georgetown DPW currently serves about 43,000 residents. Comparing that to Zeeland, they serve about 3,000 residents with their facility. Zeeland's warehouse that they just built, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but they just recently built one a couple years ago. They built a new 14,200 square foot building to serve their facilities, where you guys are currently operating about 6,600 square feet. So there's quite a disparity between the size facility that you guys are operating and the number of residents that you're serving compared to what Zeeland's currently doing. So we thought that was a good comparison between the two, just to kind of highlight, okay, well, if other facilities, other places are serving their residents in this way, shouldn't Georgetown also be serving them in that way, or what size facility is appropriate? Based on those comparisons, we kind of targeted around 20,000 square foot as a starting point to study that size facility. So this aerial concept rendering shows a location that we were looking at. Now this location is kind of at the corner of 14th Avenue and 44th Street. We're proposing roughly a 20,000 square foot building with access from both 14th Avenue and 44th Street. The drive off 44th Street would be located such that it would connect to the existing fire station driveway and parking lot. The facility would also, see if I can get this laser pointer to work. The facility would also not only have parking, but it would have a large layout area that the fire department could use for rolling out their hoses and testing their equipment, instead of using the parking lot that was over here by the church, because the current fire hydrant is right here. The facility would also be proposing 2 new fire hydrants on the property, so that the fire hydrant or the fire department could use those. In addition to these things, we'd also be proposing a truck dock, large outdoor fenced-in storage area for storing equipment as needed. If you could bump ahead to the next slide. So this is a concept for a large storage area with roughly about 3,000 square foot office component, and then the rest would be a storage, and if you can see up in this upper corner, it's not very visible on the screen, but I think it's clearer in the packet. It's kind of a workshop area to fix parts as needed and to work on things as needed, as Gary said. This section here of the building, we're proposing an overhead crane, so that equipment doesn't have to be used to pick things off trailers, but a crane could be used instead, which is a much safer way to do it. As I mentioned before, there's a truck dock proposed, which would allow for deliveries and safer offloading of trucks as they came to the building. The office component, I said, was about 3,000 square foot, has 2 private offices and about 6 open office areas currently designed in the plan. It has a records area, which is adequate for the records that you have now and the future growth of records. It has a modest break room, a conference room, 2 bathrooms, and a locker and shower facility, which currently is not available at the facilities, is my understanding, but is needed. So employees are kind of either having to find a place to shower or going home dirty and showering at home, which is not great. Above this office area is roughly a 3,000 square foot mezzanine, which I think is visible on the next page. Go ahead just a bit. So this mezzanine will be divided into two different sections. This left section we're currently proposing as a mechanical mezzanine, just to house the mechanical equipment that's needed for this building. And then the right larger section would be for all the storage needs that you would want to put up there, or it could be for future office expansion if needed in the future. If you want to scroll back to the previous page just real quick, we can hit on the rest of the things. So in addition to the office and the workshop area, we're proposing large racking spaces in the back of the building for the piping that's needed for the DPW department. It houses all the trucks that are currently owned and operated by Georgetown DPW and some future growth. It provides space for trailers that you currently have and a few trailers that you're planning on getting in the new year. And it also provides for a spot for your larger pieces of equipment, dump trucks or lift trucks. It has overhead doors on 3 sides of the building, but not the back. And then the outdoor fenced-in storage would be along this back side of the building with gated access on both sides. If you could kind of scroll down 2 more pages, we'll take a look at the concept exterior rendering. It's a pretty straightforward, simple building. We try to make it as efficiently as possible. So it's a single slope, pre-inch metal building with, this is concept, so it's colors to be determined, but we're going to try and pick out a color palette that works with the Georgetown Township colors that are currently going on in other buildings, as well as that fire station that's adjacent to this property. We're also going to be proposing to be mindful of the neighboring properties, which are all residential. Well, not all residential. There's a church over here, but residential properties behind and next to the building, we're going to need to provide some additional screening for the township ordinance, so that just involves some medium to larger evergreens along the property line just to give some screening. And then the fenced-in storage in the back will be appropriate so that people aren't looking out at all the equipment just sitting out there all the time. The next page, we tried to provide a cost range of where things could come in based on our concept thus far. The ranges, low end being at roughly 3.5 and high end roughly being at 3.9, rounding a little bit. We looked at and talked about with your team some options to add or take away things as needed. We talked about an option to the metal panel. There are a couple of different options for that siding. If you looked at Zealand's facility, it looks a little different than a normal metal panel building. It's a little bit more of an upgrade. It has a little bit more insulation, so it's a little bit more of an efficient building and a little bit more durable from an inside and outside, easily cleanable both inside and outside, and a little bit more durable. But it comes at a little bit of a premium. We also looked at 2 options to reduce the cost a little bit. Right now, there's currently a roughly 4 foot tall masonry called bump wall. It just protects the siding all the way around the building, highly recommended. But if need be, we have done buildings where we don't have that. It's lowered down to more of an 8-inch bump curb. And then we talked about we have a 6-inch fire loop currently planned out in the site plan. That's where those 2 fire hydrants were being added. That comes at a little bit of a cost. That could be taken away, but that is a nice amenity to have for your fire department who currently has to go across the street to do training. So that would be, I think, a nice win-win for both the DPW and the fire department to have those things on site. But we wanted to kind of just highlight those as they weren't an absolute necessity to the project. They were more of a, this makes a lot of sense to do it kind of a thing. The last page in the packet is just a simplified timeline to what the project could look like. This doesn't necessarily lock us into anything, but this, if things went forward in a linear, orderly fashion, this is how fast we think the process could go, kind of from start of design to start of construction to completing construction. All those things could ebb and flow a little bit as if design needs to take longer or if construction slows, however we need to approach it. But we're kind of looking at roughly a 2-month pre-design process that we're kind of in right now, just kind of figuring out what the needs of the department are, getting the proposal in front of you guys, getting it approved. Then once design officially starts, we'd be kind of looking at like this 7.5-month process from start of an agreement to delivering what would be a construction drawing package that could be officially bid and built from. Once construction starts, we'd be looking at roughly 9 to 10 months of construction if everything went as planned. Again, this is early stages, kind of putting a little bit just our experience to a similar type buildings, how they have gone in the past. Things could ebb and flow a little bit, but that's roughly how long we think the process could take. You guys have any questions that we could address?
I have one question, or a couple of questions maybe, but how easy will it be to expand this building in the future, the way you're going to design and construct it?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked that. If you want to scroll back a couple of pages to, I think it's page 3. Yeah, this is great. So we are currently setting up and did this on purpose. This front corner of the building, an office, is kind of your big dollars per square foot spend. You would kind of want to stick that in one corner of the building that you don't think you're going to expand from. You'd want to leave the other corners of the building where there aren't big expensive things that you put in initially that you could expand in the future. We also want to place the building on the site in such a way that those lesser dollars per square foot areas could be expanded from. So if you scroll back, I think even one more page to that concept site plan, you'll see that you have room here that we can expand. So if your office area is up front here, we have room to expand out here if the building need be. We could also theoretically expand out into this area, but it gets a little bit more tricky with the neighboring residential properties and what we think is going to be needed from a civil, just a water detention. Right now, this being an open, I think it's a soccer field right now that's being used in an open field. We're putting a lot of impervious area to it so that water will have to be treated somehow and retained. So currently the detention facility is here for the fire department. We will be needing to expand that to cover all this additional rainwater that would collect here, and most likely we think we're going to need some additional detention area there. So we think that this building expands pretty easy in this direction here, and we're setting up a structure so that we can do that.
Anyone else? Questions for Lakewood?
It's amazing that Joel and his people, with only 6,600 square feet and 6 locations, has been able to do such a great job for so long. This is very badly needed, and you did an excellent job with the Utilities Committee explaining it to us.
Thank you.
I think it's very, very well done.
Appreciate it, Joel. Yeah. Did I get that right? I'm sorry, I called you Joel.
Yeah.
My apologies. Adam. Saw you smile, Joel. That's how I thought it. Sorry. like I say, Kyle's usually, I met with Kyle every week for I don't know how long with the library, but you guys did a great job on that.
Thank you.
And in fairness, you guys are the ones who built Zealand, right?
Yes,
so,
we did.
It's a good comparison.
It was a good comparison. It was an easy comparison just because we worked with them on their facility study. They did a very similar process to what you're doing right now, just looking at it and saying, what do we need? And they were also undersized at the time. And based on their current needs and future growth, they really felt like that size building, roughly, I think, 14,000 square foot building, served that community well. So we feel like this size building, this 20,000 square foot building, while it seems like a big increase from your current 6,600 square foot build, you know, not even building, but facilities, it really, when you compare the size of the residents that you're serving now and the future residents that you're going to serve, we think this is very appropriately sized for what you need.
Okay. Well, after hearing Joel in utilities, I was not for this at all, but now after hearing you, I think you've done a great job. I'm very much for it. Oh, hi, Kyle.
Hey, if I could run a project as efficiently as you guys run meetings,
yeah.
Holy moly. It's like, yeah, we're on item number 10. I get 7.
Oh, thank you. And you're available yet for questions if we have some. Yep, appreciate it. I have, in terms of eliciting input, Joel, I see you back in the corner yet. In terms of the size of what's being proposed here, do you believe that it's adequate at approximately 20,000 square feet as you've analyzed things? Comments among the board. Comment I have, I guess, is this is something we've talked about, thought about for quite a while. And we don't spend $3.9 million lightly. Okay, when you think about when your 4-year term is up the end of next year, you can think back on how many $3.9 million votes you cast. This maybe the only one or close to the largest, right? I think it was 11 million then for the transmission main. On 48th, there's 12 million or something to that effect. So we don't do this every day, and when you do it, you try to be as thoughtful as you can. And I think we find ourselves in somewhat of a unique position as this board, right? So every 4 years, it's a different board. And our unique position has been, I think it's sort of evolved and become clear, is we are the board kind of bridging the gap between being a smaller township or a medium-sized township to being a larger township, and realizing that as we look around, we are serving 55,000 residents, in this case 43,000 of which have, I guess you used the figure 43,000, I guess I wasn't sure because probably didn't have water sewer everywhere, right? So whatever. Yeah, right. So the other 12,000 or whatever don't have it. But the point being is we are seeing it seems in various areas. The last time we had a meeting, we voted on IT. We've never had an outside IT firm. We needed that. We chose well, I think, and we're going to be served well by that. Part of what led to that conclusion was, some breakdowns, some failures, some obvious recognition that we're just, we're not at the level we need to be now. And I think we're seeing that here with DPW, which if they're moved over, then you've got room for, for parks and cemetery. We're kind of in that in-between where we're having to right-size, if you will, some of the assets of the township that are needed to serve that many residents from where we were when we were, 25 to 30,000, where we are now the size of Kentwood. And that requires forward thinking. We saw that recently with looking at water sewer rates and what we're going to need down the road with an aging infrastructure. I mean, all those things require looking ahead. This one is no different. I don't think if you were to continue, to keep this thing together with baling wire and duct tape, at some point you're going to say, we have to have a building. And now they're going to say, well, the lead time is, 18 months or what have you. And you suffer through that period of time more than you have thus far. And so I think it is as challenging as that can be sometimes to be that board who's helping kind of bridge between the smaller community mindset to just the acknowledgement of the reality of larger, is you have to be able to wisely expend resources for the long-term benefit of a larger township, I think 7th largest in the state. That doesn't mean we have to say we're the smallest, we're the cheapest, we're whatever, and therefore we need to be what everyone else who has 55,000 residents has. I think we're always going to be Georgetown Township, which is efficient, fiscally, responsible. Some might even say tight, right? But having the foresight to say there are things which fall to government, right? Much as we're small government people, largely in this board, there are things that fall to government. DPW obviously falls to government. And we need to therefore, as the body that can govern that, do that well, do that right, and look ahead and make sure that our township and its residents, not just those who work in DPW or in the other ones benefiting our parks and cemetery, but not just for their benefit, obviously, we want to treat our employees right, we want to give them the tools they need, but for the larger benefit of the community as a whole. If our, firefighter, I know Acting Chief DeWitt said, hey, this is a good thing for us too, I mean, if we're doing something that helps our firefighters become better, if we're doing something that makes our DPW more efficient, we're doing things ultimately that are a benefit to the residents, not just simply to those people who work in those areas. So I applaud the long-term thinking. I applaud the carefulness with which you all went through this. Utilities largely the most. Those of you who are on utilities, Joel, I know largely the most as far as a staff person. I appreciate all that homework that's been done. And frankly, Lakewood, we've got a history with you, and you've been excellent. Came in under budget and on time or even ahead of time on the library is the most recent example. We appreciate that. Not the only game in town, and we didn't look at only you, but to have an opportunity to work with Lakewood, we know it's going to be done well and be done right and be done on time and on budget. Speaking of the budget, I know that we have here not to exceed $3.9 million. We take those not to exceed numbers seriously. You just proposed 3.916, very precisely down to, the dollar. I'd rather amend the motion to be 3.916 because apparently there's some thought process in how they came to that precise number.
I'm going to help them shave down a couple $100,000.
Are you? Okay. Well, then we'll keep it at 3.9. But I'm going to...
Adam and I have a history, so...
Okay. Well, fine, we'll keep it at 3.9, but I'll say even in that, and this is just me talking, I'm one person out of 7, but I'm going to then say I don't want to, so I asked about expansion and the like, I don't want to cut corners, because inevitably you go, we should have done that. We saved $20,000 and now we cost ourselves $50, 5 years from now. So even if it's, again, this is me talking, but even if there's an aesthetic, you talked about an efficiency with insulation and so on, and a little bit nicer look with, Zealand or whatever. I think people, when they see a truck that drives around that says, GT on it, likes that they're not rusted out. Now, they don't have to be the latest, greatest, but they like to see a nice vehicle and say, that's my township, and we take care of things around here. I think if the building for, in your options for, 50,000 more would look more appealing than it would be to say, well, let's put up the plainest structure we can because that's who we are. I don't think we have to do that either. The money is there. Yes.
The bidding's done.
Okay.
You'll have to reapprove it, so those things can happen there.
If you think about design, I guess, again, one person's thoughts, but I would like you to take into consideration thinking it's something that the community is proud of as well and not just, this was the bare bones, whatever, right? And the money is budgeted. It is, to be done, and it's to be done, within our millage rate and all the rest. So, that's what I had to say, and I appreciate the thoughts of others.
Jim, I like those 3 items they talked about, possibly cutting the bump, the metal, the fire hydrants, and when it comes down to the final, as Rob had said, depending on what our numbers are, I sure would like to have us consider it and see what Gary can do to make sure all that happens and keep it under 3.9.
And if you want to use comparisons, I know you mentioned Zealand, but we could talk, Granville, Wyoming, Kentwood, how many do you want to string together where you go, size-wise and DPW-wise, as usual, we're way out of whack in terms of being smallish, right? Doesn't mean we have to build them and go, we need something as big as, but we need to be right size. Anyway.
I think that we have asked our staff, we've asked our employees to do so much for so many with so little for so long. And I can't imagine what it's like to be Joel and his team and have stuff scattered all over the community. From an efficiency standpoint, from a keeping tabs on all of our assets sort of standpoint, it's wild. And so I just think that it is time, like you were saying, Jim, as we look towards the future, to say we need to give our teams and our staff the space that they need to function well and to function as a unit and to have all their assets under one roof. And I think that it's well timed to make that happen for them. And I think the icing on the cake becomes the benefits for the fire department and for the cemetery department and for our parks department as other spaces freed up. So I am wholeheartedly behind this and think that not to exceed 3.9 million number is really appropriate and adequate and fair for a project of this scope.
Others? I know Ryan and Amy, you're welcome to speak. You don't have to, but
I'm probably going to be more of the minority on this one a little bit.
All right.
Just in our conversation, and I appreciate you guys. The original conversation started 2 to 2.5 million, 2 to 3-ish, and then I voted for those previous ones just to, in the lack of a better word, see the flop in a poker term. And now I've seen the flop and I've seen it. And for me, I had set a hard $3 million mark. I hope you can save more money and bring it down a little bit. And I do see, Bosch would not agree with this anyways, but I feel like there is a need. I just didn't want to go this high compared to what we were previously discussing. So I think this is a great building. But you're storing all your trailers and trucks and everything inside. Some things are meant to be outside as well too. So for mine, I'm gonna probably be a no still because my hard mark was a 3 million. So
Gary hasn't worked his magic yet.
we'll see. It has to come back.
I did.
We'll see if it's closer, then I would consider it.
Yeah.
But just in all our discussion, it was like 2 to 2.5, and then 2 to 3, and then all of a sudden this was closer to 4 million, and I'm like. And then, it looks beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I just think it's a little bit more of a need when it becomes this big, or a little bit more of a want when it comes this big versus where I thought the need was. So,
Ryan, why do you base it on 3?
Just in our conversations that we had, in 3 million, this was a lot bigger than I expected. So the fact that we could store all our trailers and trucks and fire hydrants and everything inside, I think some things can be outside too. I just think I like that they built it in here to be able to expand it eventually. I thought maybe originally the plan, same thing with the pickleball stuff, I thought it was going to be a smaller one with the potential to expand. Just like this building, I would have hoped it was like a $3 million one with the chance to expand. So for me, it's just $4 million or $3.9 million is a big number.
Okay.
So that was just, I had months ago when we figured this, 3 million was my line.
Thank you.
So it was just principle at that point. But you guys have more than enough.
my instinct on the parking inside thing is that it's almost being oversold here tonight. That is, it seems to be an added benefit, but not the driving force behind the size. And Joel, correct me, but with this size building, even if you didn't try to park everything inside, would you say it's not oversized for our needs in logistics?
No.
Yeah. So it's nice that you go, we can park it inside, but that's not the driving force besides the size. Yeah, even if the things are outside, you go, yeah, this is the building envelope that would be useful.
But the current existing things would still exist too. So you would, when we saw that picture of all of them in there, yeah, I agree. But now you have a dozen trucks In the new one, only have a couple spots that you have to fill in the other one.
I'm sorry, what were you
Oh,
saying?
just like, as far as like if you do build a new one,
Yeah.
you're taking the vehicles that were out of that picture of the current one,
Yeah.
you're taking a lot of those vehicles out, so there's more space in there as well too, to store things. So.
Meaning at the old building.
At the old building, correct.
Yeah. Which I'm excited about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just gotta make sure we're not figuring, oh, the new building's gonna be everything. We still do have the old things too. We still have the old building.
Oh, yeah.
So we can store a lot of things still inside there too.
Well, once they get the drawing and everything together too, we can look at, yes, we need this now, or is it something we can add on another year or two? What helps us, get the number down? And that's something that you said you're going to look at, Gary. I do kind of think we need the fire hydrants so that the firemen don't have to go to the church across the street. That seems to make sense, and as long as you're doing it, it would make sense to do it at that time. So.
See, the thing is you have to understand in building is the efficiencies of building a building. So I built houses for years. I'll give you an example. If you buy a lot and you build a 1,200 square foot house on that lot, or you build a 1,400 square foot house on that lot, the driveway is still 40 feet. The water and sewer line from the road is still 60 feet. The furnace is the same size. You have one bathroom, it has a toilet, a shower, and a vanity in it. The kitchen is the same, but you got 200 more square feet. Sure, you pay a little more for the 200 square feet, but the initial cost of getting it to where it's at is the same. The driveway is the same. The two-stall garage is the same. There are certain things in a building that are going to be the same. It's the same thing with that building. You can say, okay, we can cut this thing down 2,000 square feet, but guess what? That parking lot's still going to be the same. It's going to be the same amount of money to run those two fire hydrants, the same amount of money to run water to it. Your bid between the fire suppression between a 20,000 square foot building and an 18,000 square foot building is going to be about the same. So is the heating bills, so is everything else. So you got to look at the building. When I look at the building and I look at the size, I go, this is a nice size for us right now. We can grow into it. And I don't think you just get to a certain size with the efficiencies that I think it fits in a lot nice. But one of the things that I have kind of been behind this, and I'm not a big township spender, that's the reason I'm on the board, but this is a building that the entire township benefits from. This isn't something that goes up where 10% of the people benefit from, or 50% of the people. 95% of the people in the township are going to benefit from this building. Because most of us use DPW something. Whether we got hooked up to water and sewer, we're still dealing with certain aspects of that. We all use the fire department. I think it's going to make our fire department more efficient. One of the things we got to remember too is that DPW is done at 4. Our fire department's starting at 6 because they're evening guys. So having that building on that site and they be able to use parts of that building to maybe service trucks or do what they got to do, it's going to be a benefit to our fire department. And I think it's going to be better for our equipment. It's going to last longer. There's going to be efficiencies here that we don't all see them all right now, but I think they're going to come.
Gary, if we wait 10 years, will this double?
Oh yeah. So I asked you guys at the other meeting from the Beal, I think I asked you, didn't I? The Zealand built their building 2 years ago. What did you say? Between 12.5%, 15% more in 2 years. So here's the deal. You put your money in the bank now at a CD, you're getting 5%, and buildings are going up 7.5% to 8% a year. And you've got the cash to pay for the building. Another thing you got to remember too, look at their timeline. They're going to get half of it done next year, and they get the other half the following year. So we have to pay off for it all next year. We can pay for half of it next year, and the other half when they finish. So that whole budget won't come out of 1 year. By that time, we'll have raised more taxes because, like I said to you guys before, I've been on 30 nonprofit boards in my lifetime. I've always had to raise the money to be able to pay the bills. Township, we have this pie that we collect the money from, and we're able to do these things with the money that we get. And we haven't raised taxes, the lowest tax stakes in the state. I think now's the time to do it.
fund, not the general fund. So
It's out of the water sewer fund.
it's through rates.
Yep.
Yep. Not
But
the-
I don't remember Baker Tilly put this in their report too, that we had a need for a DPW building, if I remember right. When they did their study.
The issue I had with the Baker Tilly ones was they gave the rate study and what we should raise it to. And then I asked them to take out what a $3.9 million building would be and see what the difference in that built-in, because, I mean, it's built into that rate. And they said no difference. And $4 million difference would definitely be a difference in a rate study. So that just kind of lost a lot of credibility.
But my point is not the rate study, it's the fact that they said we needed a DPW building. They put it in the rate, they put it in the rates, but in the original report, if you read the report, they see a need for a DPW building. They ended up put it in the rates, which we didn't ask for.
And they didn't provide that to me. So like that whole thing kind of lost it for me when they never actually, it's the same rate, whether you have a almost $4 million building or not. And it's like, that's nonsense.
I don't think you're giving them the credit. I think it's.
Oh, no, I'm just saying. I agree, but that bothered me a little bit.
They had nothing to gain. I want to make sure we don't couple this again, because I want to decouple this.
Right.
We didn't raise the water and sewer rates because Baker Tilly said you need a building. We didn't raise it because we wanted the building. We raised it purely for their study and recommendation for what it's going to take for water and sewer infrastructure going forward. And I want to make sure this stay decoupled.
But it was included in it, in the rate study for a new building was included in it.
Both ways, right? And they said, you need to raise it this much, whether you build that building or you don't.
Yeah, and that's where it lost me.
Well, and they've
$4 million.
I
get it.
Yeah.
I think that at least my recollection was that the way that this potential building was mentioned in that rate study was as part of a needs assessment.
Right.
Like looking at the current and future needs of this community, they acknowledge what we're acknowledging too, which is that our DPW building needs the space. My recollection from reading that report, now it was lengthy and so I could totally be wrong, but was that they were talking about this building in current and future needs of the community, but then not, like Jim sort of was decoupling it, but they weren't coupling the rate study together with this potential building. They were keeping them very much separate. Their rate study was looking at the cost of water and sewer moving forward, with this just mentioned as a need, just like bringing our budget or our water and sewer rates up to par with neighboring communities and planning for the future, wasn't it?
I thought have this available, but I thought I saw it built into year 2 as an expenditure. And I would have to pull that up, but it was built into it.
So I
remember referencing that.
I'm just a messenger, reading the same report and having the discussions with Baker. In the rate study, the original rate study, the DPW building was in on the water side. And then I asked them to take that out, and what does it change your rate study recommendations? Their answer was no, because the cash flow savings is minimal and it's short term. Remember, this is a 10 to 20 year projection of projects, so that the building was in, but when they took it out, they said it's not significant enough to change the rate study because the cash flow gains are, when you compare it to all those projects, small and short term. And again, I'm just the messenger.
I would think they would say at the very least that if you spent $3 million versus 3.9, it wouldn't effectively change by that small a difference, right? No one's here to argue.
I'm not here to argue at all.
I appreciate your perspective. I do. And you mentioned Bosch. You want to speak for him or not?
No, I'm not. I just know it would be a hard no on that side. I'm just saying mine was, it's close, but not quite where I could get it. So
Yours isn't a hard no on principle. Yours is a hard no on the dollar.
The dollar amount is the key for me. Yeah.
All right. Any other comments? Hearing none, let's do a roll call vote.
Ms. Schwam?
Yes.
Ms. Steele? Yes. Clerk is a no. Supervisor?
Yes.
Mr. Valdek?
Yes.
Mrs. Grassman?
Yes.
5-1.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
So
Well,
good tonight.
Others who've come tonight ready to speak to it. Appreciate it. Item 15, this is the second public comment period. I know we've got members of the public here. You don't have to speak, but obviously you are now welcome to address the board on anything you like. All right, we got at least one taker. Welcome, ma'am. Your name and your address.
I'm Mary Kinley Hodgkinson, 7086 Rock Hill Drive. Come to say thank you. Thank you for the parks. My grandson and I enjoyed the water parks this summer immensely. Thank you to those people who were on the board when a similar discussion to what we had tonight about the building. And they had the foresight to say that, yeah, we needed these parks. Thank you to the current board for the excellent maintenance on the parks. That's what I've come to say tonight.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice.
Appreciate it. Have you checked out the new trail down along the river? The ribbon was cut on about a month ago. The county trail, but it's right along the river.
Where does it start?
Well, it goes all the way to Grand Haven, but try it sometime. Go park over on Main Street. And
Does it connect now?
Well, there's a point where there's still work to be done down the way, but at least this piece does, yeah.
The Sequia Trail.
What?
Sequia Trail.
Okay.
Peter Sequia.
And you got a beautiful bridge and all that. It's
You'll love it.
amazing.
Thank you.
Behind the treatment.
Significant dollars from the
Actually,
township.
I've been using it.
Yeah, well, you're right.
Because I went to Hill.
Thank you for that. And Rob wanted me to say, and significant dollars from the township were expended on that trail, but it was led by the county as a whole. So anyway, glad you enjoy the parks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Doesn't have to be as positive as that one was. We welcome any comments. Keep those coming. Kind of shocked.
We like positive.
All right. Seeing none, we'll close that second public comment period. Item 16, discussion and general information among the board members. Anything anyone wishes to bring to the board's attention?
I'm looking forward to the tree lighting tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. That's what I was going to ask when it is.
Yep.
6:30.
Yeah, and our very own Mr. John Schwam is going to be offering comments. And
Thank you.
Hey.
Does it start at 6 or 6:30?
6:30 for the tree lighting, but it's a 6 to 8 event at the library.
Okay.
So
It's a 45-minute speech by John.
I hope not, John. Let's shorten that up. Wear your warm coat, right?
Yep. Mary was an excellent teacher at Granville Public Schools for many, many years. And also been involved in some of our meetings throughout the years and done a very nice job. Glad that she came.
anyone else?
I also love our trails.
What's that?
Our family loves the trails too. Ravines is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We tried a couple new ones when it was really nice. I think it was last week, the last nice day. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was connected yet.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's really cool down there, that part. So. All right. Well, hearing no further comments, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Or
Or
favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.